This is really about bringing together real world examples on what different mechanisms we have to invest in soil health and making sure these investments are reaching the smallholder farmers. So we're super proud to have and excited to have such a great panel and participants. And this is part of our webinar series. So this is the road ahead for soil health action. So this is our second series, and the third one will be on May 2nd, and that will we're having themes leading up to the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit. So we are grateful to everyone who's been joining all of them, and we look forward to discussing with our esteemed panelists today. So for those of you who are just joining, these are our objectives of the finance webinar. So 1, present emerging finance mechanisms that are really geared towards scaling soil health on the ground. We have some fantastic, we'll have some fantastic discussions about, I hope not too controversial of a topic, but we'll see how One Acre Fund wants to do it around the concept of carbon markets and demonstrate, opportunities of how this can help farmers transition in their farming practices. As many of you know, the Coalition of Action for Soil Health is very committed to bringing together, convening, and connecting audiences. So that's also an opportunity to convene stakeholders around financing. And then really, we'll have a nice time for question and answer so that audience members, participants, panelists can ask each other questions around, things that you've been wondering about, but haven't had opportunity to ask experts in the field. So this is our amazing panel here. And so we'll start off with a keynote from our One Acre Fund colleagues, and then we'll move into a panel discussion. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Lee Winowicki. I'm a soil scientist, and I lead the soil and land health research theme at CA4SH based in Nairobi. I'm also one of the co-founders of the Coalition of Action for Soil Health. And for those of you who know, this is just a reminder that this coalition has one big goal, is to improve soil health globally. But we realize that we must address the critical implementation gaps, monitoring gaps, policy gaps, and investment barriers that currently constrain farmers. And that's exactly why we've set up this webinar series. So today is really about, how can we overcome these investment barriers with real solutions that are being implemented on the ground. And this relates very much to the 4 founding targets of the coalition. 1 is to integrate soil health into policy. And remember, it's not just agricultural policy, but also policy around environment, climate change, ecosystem restoration. 2, expand research and development to really answer knowledge gaps still remaining around impact of land management, for example, on soil health. 3 is increasing the number of hectares of land under healthy soil practices. And 4, and I see we have a few WBCSD colleagues, this came from you, that there's a tangible goal to increase financial investments by 5 to 10-fold. We have a growing membership, over 160 members from across the globe, and still about 40% is farmer organizations and NGOs. And you can see we have a farmer from Kenya also on our panel today, really trying to bring in voice of farmers, as well as the diverse actors. Core work includes engagement and communication, policy advocacy, implementation and fundraising, and multi-stakeholder engagement. And for those of you who are members, you can see if your flagship initiative is on the website, over 27 flagship initiatives. You can see here's One Acre Fund, who's giving our keynote today. We have Better Soils. We have all partners and members can submit their flagship initiative. And this is also highlighted in our newsletters, the newsroom, the policy webpage. And for those of you who already know, we're doing a lot of advocacy on LinkedIn, X, and also through our blog. So if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, I'm sure Hannah will put in the chat how you can join and receive monthly newsletter and see your work being highlighted. So with that, the 4 targets of the coalition, and today we're focusing on number 4, and we're going to kick off this session by really hearing what One Acre Fund, represented by Claire and John, is doing on the ground and in Africa, I think, is going to be the focus. And then from there, we'll go into the panel discussion. So with that, Claire, I hope you can share your screen, and we really look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks so much, Lee. I'm excited to be here. Hello, everyone. Can everyone see my screen all right? Everything looks good?
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, great. My name is Claire Brosnahan, and I work on our global partnerships team now, primarily on soil health, gender, and climate. So I'm going to be talking a little bit today about soil health financing and how we do it at One Acre Fund. We don't have the whole puzzle figured out. We have a little piece of the puzzle, which is one of the reasons we're on this coalition, is figuring out that bigger piece of the puzzle with all of you. If you don't know One Acre Fund, we're a nonprofit social enterprise. We work in 9 countries in Africa, and we currently work with a network of about 4.7 million smallholder farmers. And I really want to begin today's conversation around smallholder farmers and their soil health financing needs. So last week, I visited a One Acre Fund farmer, Francine Tuyishimire, in Ngoma district in Rwanda, where One Acre Fund has a trial on conservation agriculture practices designed to fight erosion and build soil organic matter, really trying to figure out what's the optimum evidence-based recommendations that we can provide to smallholders that will improve their soil health, but also their economic outcomes. And it was really interesting talking to Francine. She talked about how she didn't really see her bean fields that were planted with these techniques start to outperform conventional fields until now, almost 2 years after she joined the research trial, once the soil organic matter had been built up. And during those 2 years, she had to increase labor costs on the conservation ag trials, on weeding in comparison into the control. And yields really weren't impressive on those trial plots. But she's now really seeing the benefits starting to emerge on soil health, on pest and disease burden, on yield. And she would choose to continue those trials that she's experimented with now. And so now the big question is, who pays for that transition? Who benefits? And how? How do we do this soil financing transition for smallholders in Africa? And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that on my next slide. So I think we're all getting to the point now where governments, NGOs, philanthropy, advocacy groups are really agreeing on the what. We need to urgently invest in soil health, largely, due to the contributions of this coalition. And, we're also beginning to agree on why. So it's just urgent for food security today and in the future. It's urgent for environmental protection. It's urgent for carbon sequestration. All of these reasons. And what we're really seeing is that farmers in high-income countries can benefit now from some government financing for soil health and for environmentally friendly practices. We're seeing more carbon money go into farmers in high-income countries working on their soil health. And this is really fantastic news. We should applaud organizations and funders who are making that happen. But what we really want to highlight is, at the same time, we really need to make sure that smallholder farmers aren't left behind in this financing. So we know that they're going to be some of the most affected people by climate change, and we can't leave them without the funding to invest in soil health. And so we wanted to kind of dispel a few myths as well around financing for smallholder soil health, especially in the 9 African countries where we work. So I think we're asked frequently, well, aren't, corporations going to pay for this transition? And we really haven't seen corporate partners putting a lot of money in that space outside of very few premium value chains. So it's harder to reach smallholder farmers. It's harder to work with them. What about smallholder farmers who farm staple crops like maize and who aren't maybe in coffee or tea? I think a second myth we see is that carbon is really going to significantly subsidize immediately these farmer transitions. And so One Acre Fund has launched for agroforestry-based carbon pilots, but we really are seeing some gaps still on the MRV for soil health carbon credits, and some complexities around how to make sure smallholder farmers can take advantage of those. But we don't see any immediate opportunity there right now. And I think a third myth is that African governments can fully subsidize soil health themselves. They have a lot of competing priorities. We are going to highlight a little bit later, some partnerships that we have done with governments, but we really think that more funding is needed. So talking about that 5 to 10 fold increase that Lee was mentioning at the beginning of the presentation, it's absolutely needed. We need more innovative finance models, and we just need more funding for soil health, really across the board. And then now I'm going to take it back a little bit to our farmer Francine in Goma District, Rwanda, and just talk through what are her needs on financing for soil health. So she really needs soil health extension support and training based on evidence-based practices. So you have costs there on R&D, you have costs there on extension workers who need to do outreach and really show her these new techniques. She needs financing and credit. So one thing that really blew my mind talking to Francine in this trial is One Acre Fund has trialed 12 different varieties of cover crops and have found that the best performing variety in Ngoma district is sun hemp, which costs 15% of a Rwandan farmer's monthly income for a single kilo right now, which is just not feasible for smallholder farmers. So we need financing and credit. We need to help her, afford farm inputs. She needs market access for climate smart crops to help her move beyond subsistence farming. She also needs insurance to protect her. So One Acre Fund really last year launched One Acre Fund Re, a reinsurance program to protect smallholder farmers, since only 3% of African farmers have insurance coverage for their farms. And so, we've listed here how One Acre Fund finances these, but all of these smallholder needs really require investment. There's no way around it. And they're facing these tremendous barriers in getting that financing. So this is just how One Acre Fund tries to finance these. I'm going to talk a little bit more in details about that on the next slide. So financing solution number one. So One Acre Fund uses a blended finance model. I see more and more organizations using something like this, which is really exciting to see. So it's just a way that we can reach more farmers with less money. So the way we deploy financing for soil health to reach those 4.7 million smallholder farmers in 9 countries is that we use grants for our impact generating activities like training, and we use debt for working capital. And this really just helps us spread every last dollar. If we needed grants for our working capital, we would just reach way fewer farmers. And so, if we weren't able to do that, we would have reached about 830,000 less farmers in 2012. So we really see this blended finance model as being critical to serving smallholders' finance needs. Second solution that we've really found works for us. I also see other organizations looking at venture building and impact funds. I think it's a big piece of the puzzle. So we wanted to explain how One Acre Fund thinks about this. So we have a venture and impact building fund, Smallholder Resilience Ventures. that tries to build farmer resilience in the markets where we work. So in Rwanda, for instance, they really have issues with erosion. For those of you who have been there or who live there, it's a very hilly country. So the Rwandan government reported 2 years ago that 45% of the country's land is at high risk of erosion, and only 1/4 of that land has been protected. They highlighted that the total economic loss in productivity due to severe erosion is around 37 billion Rwandan francs every season. And so what we do with SRV is we make strategic investments and offers into technical advisory support to agricultural SMEs that source climate resilient, high value farmer crops like avocado oil processors or an avocado export company. And it creates this virtuous cycle. Smallholders are willing to plant avocado trees in erosion prone areas because they have a market for their harvest. Businesses source more farmer harvests. And we can help fight erosion that way. And then last financing solution I wanted to highlight is really partnerships. So we know partnerships are absolutely key to unlocking scale and helping smallholder farmers overcome their soil health challenges. We partnered with the Rwandan government, who provides lime subsidies to fight soil erosion. One Acre Fund provides credit to make that even more accessible and more financially affordable for farmers. We've always done delivery of lime to farmers' villages, and now we're even trialing direct delivery to farmers' homes to try to even make that even more accessible to smallholder farmers. So we're really tackling these two barriers of affordability and access, and trying to use a partnership to help farmers improve their soil health. So those are a few models that have worked for One Acre Fund.
Wow, thank you so much, Claire. Can we give Claire a virtual round of applause? That was fantastic. So I think I also learned quite a bit because I think we're always talking about one or two solutions, and you just presented, several solutions, and some of those solutions were even blended solutions. So you're like multiplying that effect. So I think that was incredibly helpful and rich. And I hope that we will have some hard questions for you from the audience later. And if not, I'm definitely gonna give Will John the chance to talk about the carbon market. So be ready for that. So this is so fantastic. And I think it sets it up really well and really putting smallholders in the center. So I'd like to move to our first panelist, Malin, if proceed, and we'll get right into the panel discussion. So for those of you, yes, great. I'll just allow you to introduce yourself, but your whole institute is really about working with smallholder farmers in Argentina and really introducing new practices. So I'd like to give you 30 seconds or so to just introduce your institute and what you're doing, and then if you could spend your time talking about the current knowledge gaps that really need to be filled in order to implement all these solutions that Claire and John just highlighted for us. So Malin, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Lee. Thank you all. And thank you for inviting us to bring the voice of Argentinian farmers to this webinar. So first, I would like to share with you a little bit about our organization, the Argentine No-Till Farmers Association, APRESID. It's a non-governmental and non-profit organization that was founded 30 years ago by a group of farmers that were concerned about the high levels of soil erosion caused by conventional tillage, and started to implement and promote a new agricultural model based mainly on no-till farming. So nowadays, APRESID has developed a network of 1,800 farmers and agronomists with influence on 11 million hectares in Argentina, who share the mission to promote sustainable production systems of food, fibers, and energy through innovation, science, and knowledge networks. And I would like to mention that during these 30 years, soil health has been at the core of APRESID activities. And we have faced some challenges along this path, and some challenges that we are facing today. The first would be to raise awareness among farmers about the importance of soil health, and not only the importance, but also the impact on sustainability and business profitability in the midterm. And related to this, a great challenge, a big challenge, is still to quantify these impacts, to establish relationships between soil health indicators, production, and profitability. And another challenge is, and still is, to ensure that the soil is considered as a strategic resource to sustain productive activity and food supply by decision makers, and as a consequence, to generate incentives or regulations that encourage soil care practices. But I would like to share with you that in APRESID we have developed a very interesting work methodology that has allowed us to face these challenges by implementing a public-private financing schemes, which are very innovative because farmers are leading these strategies that prioritize soil health. And in this work methodology, farmers are investing because they are involved and leading this entire innovation process, from the identification of the common problems of issues to the final results. And how does this methodology works? Well, first, we bring together groups of farmers at a local level to identify common challenges, in this case related to soil health. And then we establish alliances with research organizations and specialists, also the public sector and technology companies, in order to find solutions to these challenges which are based on science. This whole research and development and innovation process must meet certain conditions. First, we need to make sure that we have all the actors involved in the process have the same protagonism. We call it the horizontal protagonism of the actors involved, where farmers bring their empirical experience and work along with specialists that contribute with their scientific knowledge, and companies that provide specific and adapted technologies. And the second condition of this process would be to experiment in real productive scenarios, where farmers are developing this research in their own fields. So these developments are not taking place in laboratories, for example. So this process has, just one final comment, this process has allowed us to have science-based solutions focusing on soil health that respond to the needs of farmers, and that they are also applicable, scalable, and economically viable.
Perfect, Marlene. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. And thank you also for bringing the voice of farmers from Latin America. This is super fantastic. And I'm even seeing a question for all panelists at the end there about your first request about how we can quantify the impacts, right? And really generate that evidence base and provide that to the financiers. And I'm also seeing an overlap with Claire's presentation on this need for blended, right? Not just grants, not just private finance, but really this idea of bringing together multiple sources. So thank you so much for bringing your words of wisdom. And I just always learn something new from you. So Malen, thank you so much. And now I'm super happy to bring on to our panel Will Howe, who is from Big Valley, and he'll tell us what that is about. But I also wanted to ask Will, what are some of the current trends and opportunities for financing, and specifically around this expertise, this intervention around biochar. So please take a minute to introduce yourself and what is Big Valley? I mean, we know what a Big Valley is, but what your Big Valley is, and then, yeah, tell us about the current trends. So big welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee. Thanks all. I'm Will, as mentioned, from Big Valley, which in addition to being a Big Valley is a recently formed Swiss impact investment advisory company that I have with my partner. The two of us used to work together at Responsibility Investments, a large Swiss impact asset manager. We have since left and started our own company and are also dovetailing on which two topics just mentioned, or a topic double highlighted. We are in the process of raising a blended impact fund right now. It is going to be a 10-year close-ended 120 million blended fund, probably with a roughly 30-70 public-private split in terms of the investor base. It'll be providing long-term patient debt-based capital throughout the global south to a portfolio mixed of largely biochar projects, which is what I'll focus on today, but also other kind of circular ag solutions. We expect the biochar portion of the fund to make up 60 to 70% of the end portfolio. So biochar, I'm not sure how much folks on this call do or don't know about biochar as a solution. It is currently receiving a lot of attention in carbon markets for its potential as a permanent form of nature-positive carbon dioxide removal, or as a CDR technology. It also carries with it many different, not necessarily priced in co-benefits, especially for soil health. And on that topic, biochar currently development is quite advanced in the global north and North America, throughout Europe, where it's a relatively mature industry at large scale. The focus of our fund is in global south countries, sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America, where we will be working predominantly with smallholder farmers, farming cooperatives, or organized larger scale efforts at an industrial scale to build plants that are based around collecting biomass waste from smallholder farmers or farming cooperatives. In terms of current trends, biochar has emerged. Oh, sorry.
Sorry for that. Maybe.
Question?
No. Sorry. Maybe Anne, can you just mute people? Thanks. Sorry. Go ahead, Will.
No problem. Biochar has emerged as a leading solution in the carbon dioxide removal space in international carbon markets, both for its permanence as well as for its suite of co-benefits. It currently makes up over 90% of total delivered carbon dioxide removal credits in the market, which is a very, very strong figure. And market growth is very robust. It averages quite a high price in international carbon markets, and I think carbon markets are currently, as people on this call, and John certainly knows, going through an interesting period of consolidation and maturation, which I think ultimately is very healthy for carbon markets overall. There's a lot more scrutiny being applied to credit quality and permanence, and there have been several kind of large news stories in the past 2 years that call into question a lot of existing methodologies. While the effect of this is up in the air for carbon markets overall, one knock-on effect it has had for solutions like biochar is that it is increasing their price and overall market demand because it does not pose reputational risk to end off-takers the same way that some nature-based credits or credits without current robust or high confidence MRV solutions do. So in that regard, we're seeing strong demand for credits being generated by a lot of the projects that we're looking at. All of the biochar projects in the Global South that we're looking at rely to a certain degree on carbon financing for financial profitability. That there's a great spectrum, a range in there, I would say, where on the very lowest end, some only rely on, I would say, 20% of carbon finance-based revenue, and up to 100%. In many models, we're seeing a lot of financial models where carbon financing makes up 100% of project revenues, so that biochar can be given back to smallholder farmers for free as a soil amendment, especially when it's inoculated with other organic or inorganic fertilizer compounds. The difference between kind of global north and global south markets is that biochar as a soil amendment can fetch up to $3,000 per ton, I would say, in the global north, probably averaging closer to 1,000. Obviously, you can't get these same prices in a lot of the developing countries from smallholder farmers or farmer networks, which is why carbon finance is a useful tool for subsidizing or fully donating effectively the resultant biochar as a soil amendment. I'm conscious of time. I don't want to run over. I can go on and on about this, and I'm also happy to chat when the panel opens up. But overall, I would say the outlook for biochar as a financing tool for soil health in the global south is very rosy. We're seeing a lot of increased interest and appetite for financing these projects for their soil effects vis-a-vis carbon finance as a tool for project feasibility.
Wow, thank you, Will. I think we all just got a really short course on climate financing and biochar. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. And also some real overlaps in terms of this need for blending, and also that it's not always possible for smallholder farmers to rely on just one financing mechanism. So I think that's becoming quite clear. And karibu to Kenya. So when you're setting up, make sure you visit Phoebe and I sitting here in Kenya. This is great. So I'm really pleased now to stay on this financing mechanisms and bring onto the panel Donna. And she has two acronyms after her name, and she will tell us what they are. OP2B and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. So Donna, I'm really excited to have you here and to ask you about, how does World Business Council for Sustainable Development advocate for and even facilitate financing mechanisms to support soil health? All members of the Coalition of Action for Soil Health are aware of the soil investment case. And so we'd like to hear from you what approaches or tools also that WBCSD or the businesses use to measure and monitor impact. So both Claire and Will and Marlene mentioned this importance of we need to quantify the impact. So I hand it over to you. You can answer the questions in any order. So thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Lee. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here today, specifically to talk about soil health, because this is a very, I would say, core topic in my work. So I'm Dana Rakamichelon, and I'm part, as you said, of WBCSD and OP2B. So for those of you that aren't very familiar, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development is a global community of businesses that are leading and driving systems transformation. And so those are businesses that are looking to transform the different value chains, and among them are, I would say, part of our work is focused on the agricultural systems. we're trying to advance together with the businesses in order to transition to more regenerative and equitable agricultural systems that fit within planetary boundaries from, I would say, on one side, and the other side is very much linked to the equity, food, and nutrition security as well. So those are the big two, I would say, important buckets where our work fits under. And in order to do that, and back to one of your questions, Lee, is us focusing on raising the ambition. So we do so by focusing on strengthening the accountability, accelerating action, and enabling transformation. So it's really amongst those lines that we're able to support in this transition. Specifically on OP2B, so that's the One Planet Business for Biodiversity Coalition, which was created back in 2019. And this is an international cross-sectoral business coalition that's focused on action and action relating to regenerative agriculture. So how can we drive transformational system change and catalyze action so that we can protect and restore cultivated and natural biodiversity? So it's all clicking together because soil health is actually a component of, I would say, multiple impact areas that we're working on. And we really believe in a holistic approach because of our work is focused on, I say our work specifically in OP2B is focused on regenerative agriculture. We definitely need this holistic approach because of the environmental and social and socioeconomical actually impacts that can be generated. But those impacts can be generated at different levels. So our work is very much, I would say, on a global level, but it definitely is linked to what happens at the farm and at landscape level as well. So what we're doing currently in WBCSD and OP2B on driving further investments for soil health is, first of all, we're aligning on metrics. So we're driving widespread industry adoption of aligned metrics that are linked to regenerative agriculture, and of course, very much then linking to soil health. We're doing so by engaging with 52 companies and 30 ecosystem partners. And in total, we're reaching more than 1,100 businesses out there. So that's starting to become a big group in the private sector. But we're not doing that only with the private sector. This is a joint effort with philanthropy as well. In order to, I would say, figure out how do we measure the impact. So back to also a few points that were mentioned before me. I think it's important for us to align on these metrics because it will, I mean, I will get to this point in just a minute, but currently we are focusing on figuring out together how can we align on soil health metrics in order to figure out this outcome of improved soil health. But there are many challenges that are linked with soil health, from the difference in measurement to also the actual differences, the biological, the physical, the chemical differences that happen in different parts of the world. So depending on the context, how do you look into this topic from a global perspective brings its own set of challenges. But we're aligning not for just the sake of aligning, because this is quite theoretical, but what will this enable us is to, first of all, if we align, we are able to develop a coordinated monetization of how to provide economic benefits for farmers. And of course, specifically on soil, it's very important through the carbon sequestration. It also enables us to align on metrics and inform valuation models and investment decision-making, both public and private, in order to drive the needed investments to fund and de-risk that transition, and of course have a positive impact on soil health. But also with this big group, I think we now have an I would say the ability to influence also the different emerging standards and regulations, so that soil health has the right, I would say, spotlight in these. Our work in WBCSD also tries to, I would say, echo the potential for agriculture and food companies on how to scale soil health by investing in their own value chains. And we really seek to drive more stability in investments. Part of our work today is, as I was saying, we're aligning on metrics, but we're also aligning carbon accounting standards and practices, where we're helping companies to navigate those different frameworks and standards, and helping them understand how to take action to improve soil carbon and ultimately contribute to their climate targets. We're also accelerating the adoption of standards and frameworks by focusing on data and MRV, understanding and recognizing, I would say, all the complex ecosystem that that revolves around the measurements regarding soil, which is, I think, to no one's surprise, quite complex. And perhaps I can finish with 2 quick points. We also work on advocacy in order to elevate the messages needed. So by providing we are pushing policymakers to focus on the consistent metrics and align the policy frameworks as well. And finally, we're really trying with our members to focus on landscape action, because this is going to be, I'd say, the next big part of our of the challenge, how to push companies to have this landscape lens and ultimately impacting, of course, on soil health, but on, I would say, on a scale that is not the one that's most used today.
Donna, thank you so much. And thank you for so clearly articulating, one, the need for this massive partnership, right? So we need to work across multiple stakeholders. And then as a soil scientist I've dedicated my entire career to monitoring and quantifying soil health, including soil carbon, it's so nice how you articulated the benefits of having alignment around these metrics. It can increase financing, it can influence food companies to scale, ability to influence emerging standards. I mean, so many benefits. So I'll be playing this again for my CEO. Thank you so much, Donna. That was fantastic. And now I'm really excited. We have 2 more panelists. So we started in the farmers' fields, and then we went to the financing. And now I'm really excited to bring Azadeh, the founder and CEO of Better Soil, which I just have always been admiring Azadeh, and I love the name of their organization, Better Soil. So Azadeh, I welcome you to the panel, and I want you to tell us about Better Soil and kind of the structures that you have. And then if you could focus on, some of the, challenges you've encountered while trying to mobilize investment capital. I know you're operating also in Malawi and in Germany, and then how you've addressed them. So really focusing on financing solutions, and give us some exciting motivation, how you've implemented what Will and Donna were talking about. The floor is over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lee. And first of all, hello to you all. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, maybe. Yes, my name is Azadeh. I founded Better Soil 3 years ago. So it's a kind of startup, sustainable startup, already 3.5 year old, and having soil health improvement in its business model, or core of its business model. One of our companies, or the headquarter of this startup, is based in Germany. We also have 3 offices, or 3 separate companies, in Iran, Malawi, and Kenya. And in 2 countries, Germany and Iran, we are operating. In Malawi and in Kenya, we are at the moment networking and making partnership with different potential customers or stakeholders. It's been 3.5 years now that we have been working in this area, and the challenges we got, we categorized them in 3 groups, so in 3 categories. The first one is, you also mentioned it, is educational gap and lack of awareness. many people and investors are not familiar with potential benefits and opportunities in investing in soil health startups or potential companies. So this lack of awareness leads to a lack of interest and investment in this area. What we try to do in this category is to raise awareness, to talk on different panels, to talk on different events, to be visible, to make the soil topic visible, and to bring the potential benefits into the table and into discussion. We have talked to different politicians on European level. We have talked to different investors in area of venture capital or fair equity or responsible investment, depending on where you are, or impact investment, to raise awareness on this topic. This is one thing that we are doing at the moment. We also published a book. We dig it on this topic so that people can understand the topic much easier with illustration and graphics. The second category is the financial gap and investment gap. So there are two issues. There are different issues in this category, but there are two issues that we highlighted over the last 3.5 years. First of these points is long-term returns, where there is a perception that soil health often requires long-term investment before seeing significant returns. It depends in many countries, depending on what kind of soil you're working with. You are able to see the results after 6 months. For instance, we worked with a pistachio farmer in Iran, and the result after the first treatment were visible only after 6 months. So the long-term returns and short-term returns, depending on what kind of investment and investor you're talking with, is a misleading thing. So we have to clarify this, that not every soil practice can lead to long-term returns. It can also lead to short-term return and benefit, also in crop yield. The second point is this risk perception, what also Dana talked about, that investing in soil health is quite risky for many investors because of different uncertainties. So weather conditions, crop yields, and market volatility, and so on. And this is the point, decreasing risk, making it more demonstrating the impact, make it more transparent, and so on. This is one point that many partnership with different research institutes can address. The third category is the political gap and lack of supportive laws. So there are not many laws or political decisions that support, promote, and favor practices that increase soil health. We have, in the last 2.5 years, we categorized or we developed 4 principles, how these principles can impact soil health. One of them is also biochar, and we talked to many politicians. Not many laws can recognize agroforestry or biochar or compost or soil improvement practices as a kind of rewarding measurements for farmers to get funds from or support from government, especially in Europe. And when we talk about European monies. So these 3 categories we have spotted out over the last 3.5 years. I would be happy to talk about the solutions, also what we are doing in the panel discussion, and give the word back to you, Lee.
Thank you so much, Azadeh. And I love how organized you are, and not just highlighting challenges, but then also how you've been addressing these. I think that's really fantastic. And I cannot think of anyone better on the panel to come after you than a farmer who's been experiencing this, and I'm sure also has seen faster returns and improvement. I couldn't agree with you more, Azadeh. We as scientists also need to change that myth that it's going to take decades to improve soil health. No, we can actually do things in real time here. So with that, I'm so excited to welcome Phoebe Wangangi. She's from Makueni County, Kenya, where actually CA4SH has quite a few projects as well. And Phoebe, you have been listening to everyone here, and you have a real opportunity to use your voice and provide some advice to these organizations and investors looking to support smallholder farmers such as yourself. And I hand the next 5 minutes over to you to just take it away. What advice do you want to give them? And then what do you want us to know about you and how you've improved soil health? Thanks so much. Asante sana, Phoebe.
Asante sana. Thank you for having me in this I'm a farmer here in Makueni, Kenya, and I'm happy to participate with organizations who are so mindful about the farmer, the soil health, because the farmer is always talking about the health of the soil, because it's the one which gives food to the farmer. You know, the ultimate point of the farmer is to have the family food secure, and then the business or selling of the extras comes later. So we're talking about the financing soil health. And I thought it is good to have these farmers, the smallholder farmers, aware of the soil degradation or the poor health of the soil or what is happening to the soils. Sometimes the smallholder farmer may not be aware that it is poor soils which are giving them the poor yields. So it is good to have these trainings and awareness meetings, reaching the smallholder farmer, making them understand what is happening to the soils and why they are getting poor yields of late and not the way they used to get when they opened the soil in the first growing period. So when these farmers get to know and they are aware of the status of the soil and what is happening to the soils and why the soils are not yielding well, then now we can come up with the mechanisms of restoring this soil. But some of the mechanisms, some of the innovations which may be used to help the farmer restore the health of the soil may be a bit expensive for the farmer to implement. And there comes the financing part of it. For example, we may have the innovations like regenerative agriculture, where the smallholder farmer may not be able to acquire some of the implements or to be able to undertake some of the innovations without support, financial support. So I would advise the organizations and other investors to have the farmer first aware, to have awareness meetings, awareness trainings of the status of the soil and what can be done to improve the soil. And then after that, we can now come up with some of them are farmer-based, some of the innovations, others can be brought in by the investors and the organizations, but they need funding, they need financing by these organizations. We'll have the organization trying to support innovations like the regenerative agriculture and also helping the farmer come up with innovations which will help to improve the soil. Some of the mechanisms which can be used is like a subsidy. For example, we may have to use to improvise the manures, the composite manure, to do some fertilizers and this regenerative agriculture. We can have sort of we call cost sharing. The farmer will do one part, the organization will do the other part, and then the whole process will be accomplished. Some technologies like soil testing. You know, with the farmer, once you tell the farmer the soil is not healthy, some of them will run for the fertilizers, others will run for the manure, but they don't know what is lacking in that soil. So it is good to have the soils tested, and it's a bit expensive for the smallholder farmer. That's why I'm calling upon these institutions and also organizations to help these farmers in technologies like soil testing so that they can know where to start in improving their soils. I also would wish to ask our organizations and also the investors. We have some other similar ways of trying to have the soils regenerated, like growing pastures, cover soils, and also doing terracing so that we can hold the water and also the manure and also the humus for the soil to keep on regenerating itself. But so some of the processes for the smallholder farmer may be a bit expensive. We have a way of doing it in some communities. I can sell these ideas to our organizations. For example, we have communal way of terracing, and in this communal way of terracing, the farmers are given a subsidy. We call it food for work. When they do terracing one farmer's plot, they are given food, especially when we have these regular famines. They're given food, then they will do the work, they'll do terracing, they'll plant trees, and they will conserve the soil in a manner which will bring benefits to the community. Although they are being subsidized by being given food, they will not go looking for food, but they'll concentrate on improving the soil. So when we talk of financing soil health, it is not specifically money. You can do it in kind, you can do it through trainings, you can do it by engaging the farmer, partnering with the farmers, and having them participate even without costing as far as finances are concerned. So also, I would also request our organizations and investors who are supporting soil health. The farmers, the smallholder farmer, they have small pieces of land, most of them. And within a small piece of land, when properly taken care of, the returns will not take long before the farmer realizes. So once we have these innovations of regenerative agriculture, terracing, and also soil conservation in other methods, you realize that this farmer will realize the returns within 2 rain seasons, and the farmer will appreciate. Be it a livestock farmer, be it a crop farmer, they will appreciate these returns, and they will devote themselves more into trying to improve the soils because they have already tested the benefits within the first 2 seasons. So supporting the farmer either financially or using these other methods of subsidy, cost sharing will help the farmer depending on the weights of the innovations. Some of them, like soil testing, we said you can pay for the farmer, but things like terracing, mulching, manuring, regenerative practices, that's ones we can do cost sharing with the farmer, and will improve our soils for the benefit of the future farmers. I'll be glad to hear, to see these ones being implemented, especially with the smallholder farmer who realizes the effects or the positive changes within a very short period of time. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. We're all going to give you a virtual round of applause. Of course, we should have done this for everyone, but I hope that everyone here has really heard you and you gave some very good concrete actions that investors, all of us can do. And I'm sure Azadeh was like, yes, awareness is so important in this training, right? So thank you, Phoebe. It's so wonderful to hear the voice of the farmer. So we only have a few minutes left. So before I get to the panel, where I will have a timer, 30 seconds, I will go through and you will give us your key message or your goal or commitment, but you only have 30 seconds. I just want to give the floor for 1 minute to John Mundi. Really a short intervention. You are a carbon expert. You're working with 1 Acre Fund. You've heard a lot. Is there any observation or reflection you had that you can summarize quickly? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be super quick. and it's not fair to make me go after Phoebe because I thought Phoebe captured everything I probably would say very well. But what Phoebe alluded to, and I think a trend throughout this webinar has been that blended finance is needed for smallholders to make this transition. And what that really looks like in the carbon markets is probably a blend, a bundle of activities at the farm level. And what we don't have at the moment is a bundled carbon solution for farmers that might include biochar and agroforestry and all of the training and labor that many farmers require. And I thought that was another really important point that Phoebe made, which is that every farmer's soil is slightly different. And carbon finance at the moment is pretty rigid on how you can do MRV and certification at the farm level. And I think another speaker mentioned landscape level approaches, and that's super important. Landscape level approaches are super important, but we need to tailor recommendations based off of bundled services that each farmer needs in different contexts, and each farmer has a different requirement. And so from a financial perspective, that's quite complex to engineer in some ways, but it could be quite easy if we were to free the shackles of the kind of technicalities of the problems of the carbon market to be more reflective of smallholders' needs. So I'll stop there. It could be an hour-long discussion, but I think Phoebe really captured what I would have said really well.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'll ask Gibson to spotlight all of our panelists. They have 30 seconds. We'll start with Azadeh, go to Dana, Will, and then Malen, and then end with Claire. So we'll all be spotlighted. Azadeh, 30-second message.
Okay, so I would say soil is the most unsexiest topic ever, and we have to keep going and we have to continue until everybody knows it.
Excellent. Dana.
Well, I would say that without souls, the whole ag value chain just crumbles. So I would very much argue for a coordinated approach to financing soil health. That would be my key point here. Coordination.
Excellent. Will.
Yeah, I'm excited about the kind of the two-pronged potential for carbon finance to be leveraged as well as blended finance to provide additional leverage to financing, as Azadeh said, possibly an unsexy solution, but one that is the underpins everything and how we receive our food globally. So excited about additional ways to come at the problem from different angles.
Fantastic. Great. Claire, you have a lot of good things to follow up. Go ahead. 30 seconds.
Yeah, really aligned that we need more financing for soil health. We have to make sure that those who are going to be most affected by the climate crisis don't need to bear all of the expense and all of that burden. We really believe that blended finance, investments in SMEs, some of these partnerships like subsidy partnerships can be a few of the silver bullets that are needed to tackle this issue. So it's not one silver bullet, it's like 10 or 15 or 20. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Malen, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you very much. Well, to sum up, I think that some of the challenges that we have shared and identified to increase investment in soil health, I think we all agree that they could be addressed by focusing on education and awareness on the importance of soil health. And in this way, the work of organizations such as CA4SH is really important. Also establishing public and private partnerships, as we mentioned. And I agree with Phoebe that involving farmers in this process where they can learn about the economical benefits of soil health practices is also really important. And to finalize, to develop and communicate soil evidence on the economic and environmental benefits of these practices. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you so much. Phoebe, 30 seconds, your last final words for the webinar.
Thank you. I would wish to say that soil health is very important to each one of us. It is the basis of our food security, and it should be given the chance it deserves, should be handled with the greatest importance it deserves if we are going to be food secure. Thank you.
And I am not going to say anything else after that. That was perfect. I thank all the panelists, all the people who have joined us online. Hannah and Daniela will be writing up a summary for us to share, the recording, and the wise words of all of you. So hi, Hannah. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
rest of.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.